Now the Premier League season is over, it's time to switch our focus to the Club World Cup fantasy game. I made a how-to video a few days ago, and now it's time to look at my first draft. Alright, before we get into the team itself then, I just want to ask you, if you're playing the Club World Cup fantasy game this year, please subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. I promise I'll have plenty of content coming your way about the game, and you'll have everything you need from this channel. So please leave a like rating and subscribe to this channel. If you want to join the Golden Goal Mini League, the code is on the right hand side of the screen there, ACKJG6EN, or I'll leave a link to join the league in the description. As with all of the mini leagues I run on the fantasy games, first place will get a Golden Goal mug and a packet of biscuits of your choice. Wherever you are in the world, I'll try and get that shipped to you if you win the mini league. So yeah, be sure to subscribe to the Golden Goal channel and check out my mini league. So I thought there were a couple of things to go through before I talk about the team itself when it comes to actually picking the team. First one, and I think it's one of the key factors that come into deciding the players I've picked basically, are the quality of the groups that some of these teams have. I look at Group A, for example, and I think for me there's one clear winner in Porto. I think they just have an edge on the rest of the teams in their group. So that's definitely one team that I might look to pick players from. I think Bayern Munich should win their group fairly easily. First fixture for Bayern Munich being against Auckland, who I think have the lowest odds to win the tournament. So that suggests that Bayern Munich, particularly in that match day one, could be good. I look at Inter Milan's group as well, depending on how they get on in the Champions League. Whether there's a bit of a hangover from that, I guess we'll find out. I'm not going to say this is my final draft. This is my first draft. Obviously, the Champions League final still to go. But it certainly looks like they've got a pretty strong group. Man City, they don't look too bad either. I guess Juventus is mixed in there as well, but their group's not looking too bad. PSG and Atletico Madrid in the same group sort of puts me off a little bit. Chelsea, I think they've got a good group, so I'd be looking to potentially pick some Chelsea players. Dortmund as well look like they've got a good group. I would say the three teams I'm looking at here that I think are strong teams in their own right and have a really favourable group, well, maybe four. Bayern Munich, Inter Milan, Dortmund and Chelsea. Those teams in particular look like they have good groups, and obviously they'll play each of the teams in the group stages, but it also kind of ties in with my chip strategy or booster strategy, as you would say, in this game. Now, I've already covered what all of the boosters do in my how to play video, and if you want more information on how to play the game, I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But in terms of the boosters that will be available to us in the group stages, we've got a wildcard, which runs as any old fantasy football wildcard draft or wildcard chip does. You can make unlimited transfers to your team within a specific round, and your team stays the same for the remainder of the game after that point. A 12th man allows you to select one additional player to support or score points for your team during that match day. They can't be substituted, captain or transferred, but you get a 12th player essentially. And then maximum captain, where the game runs on manual captain, so you can change your captain after each sort of game day within a match day if you want to. But maximum captain ensures that the top scoring player in your team gets the double points as your captain. So that's a quick run through of what the boosters look like. In terms of when I'm thinking of using them, well, I've already suggested I'm probably going to target teams and players with a really favourable group. And I think it's only natural that teams with a favourable group will probably be through to the knockout stages by match day 3 after their first couple of games. So for me, if my team is going to be full of these players, I'm probably going to play my wild card in match day 3. I think pretty sound logic, and that's my plan. As for the 12th man and maximum captain, I just don't think we have enough information at this stage to completely finalise our team. So I'm staying a bit loose as to whether I use them in match day 1 or 2, right? Kind of keeping my options open. I am sort of leaning towards match day 1 for using the 12th man, purely because I think Harry Kane, who is my personal favourite player in the whole game, you know, based on the seasons he's just had, and the fact he's got the worst team in the tournament according to the betting data in match day 1, I think he's probably going to be the best captain. I think that's as clear a captaincy decision as you're probably going to get until the knockout stages. So for me, I'm going to save my maximum captain, I think, until match day 2 and probably use the 12th man in match day 1. That's kind of where I'm leaning. I'm not saying that's set in stone just yet. Okay, on to the team itself then. Hopefully you can read all that with the resolution of my screen. So in goal, I've gone for Armani of River Plate and Perrin of Juventus. I've got to say, of all of the positions and all of the spots in my team, I think the goalkeepers are the most contentious. Now, Armani, I needed, as you can see there, I've got 0 in the bank at the moment. I needed a goalkeeper that was 4 million, and I scoured the list of names in the game. And Armani was the only goalkeeper I could find at 4 million that has actually played an amount of games for his respective team this season. He's actually had a decent amount of appearances for River Plate. Definitely don't think he's the first choice keeper, but he's in there for that. Like I said, the goalkeeper might be a little bit contentious in this team, and it requires a little bit of news to come out, I think, to completely lock it in. It does look like Matteo Perrin could be the first choice goalkeeper for Juventus. And I looked at all of the other goalkeepers in the game that I'd want to pick, and they all came in at sort of 5.5, 5.4 million, whereas this guy's over $500,000 cheaper, and it just allows me to build a much better team. In terms of his fixtures, well, he's got Alain and Casablanca in his first 2, and if he does start both of those games, you've got to think you'd worry about the Man City fixture, but matchday 3, I'll be playing my wild card, so I can get rid of him. Now, those first couple of fixtures that he's got are pretty good. And if he is confirmed or looks like he's going to be first choice for Juventus in the tournament, I think he's probably the goalkeeper to go for, really, at his price point. So, like I said, a little bit contentious. I'm a little bit concerned about Armani and his appearances or potential minutes. In Perrin, I don't think he's confirmed as that Juventus first choice goalkeeper, although I think it's likely. So, we'll see what happens there. In terms of my defence, though, I am pretty locked in here, I think. At least... yeah, I think my logic is sound for picking these defenders. So I've got Dumfries and DiMarco, the 2 Inter Milan wing-backs. I look at the Inter Milan group and the couple of fixtures they've got. Monterrey up first and Urawa Red Diamond second. I think those are 2 fixtures that Inter Milan should win. And just looking at how they operate as a team, they're really solid and like dogged defensively. And I think they should be able to keep a couple of clean sheets in those games. And Dumfries and DiMarco are so attacking that they basically play as wingers. So you've got a team with a good defence that have a good group and the 2 wing-backs from that team that are super attacking. And I just don't know what more you could want. And you can see that I've got Çalhanoğlu, who we'll get onto in a minute. I just think you've got to go with double into defence with the quality of group that they've got and how good they are defensively. The only concern I would have is what's going to happen with the Champions League final. You know, the tournament kicks off a couple of weeks after that, but... you know, we'll just have to see what happens in the Champions League final, basically. One of these players could get injured, or there could just be a lingering hangover from Inter Milan, either from losing it or winning it, for example. So, yeah, I'm going with those 2 at the moment, but we'll wait and see what happens in the Champions League final. I talked about the teams that I want to target. Chelsea was one of them. And I looked at the Chelsea defenders. Chalobah has returned to Chelsea in January on loan from Crystal Palace and pretty much played every game for them afterwards. And, well... I don't think there's any coincidence that with Chalobah being in the team, Chelsea have become again like top 4 contenders. He's really had a strong impact since he's been back in that Chelsea team. And I think alongside Colwill, you know, he's their first choice, one of their first choice centre-backs. So I really like him. He's the cheapest Chelsea defender and I needed budget. So I went for him. I think there's some clean sheets certainly on the cards for Chelsea. They got Flamengo they've got a fixture in match day 1, which is to be confirmed. I'm pretty sure there's a playoff happening between Los Angeles and Club America, I'm pretty sure, to determine who is the other team to go into this group. But I think regardless, that matchday 1 fixture, Chelsea should keep a clean sheet in that game. So I don't think Club America or Los Angeles are going to give them all that much of a challenge. So yeah, I've gone for Chalobah. Alongside that, I've gone for Francisco Moura of Porto. I had a look at the Porto squad on Transfermarkt. I had a look at all of the cheap defenders in the game on Transfermarkt, and I tried to find a balance of number of games played and the quality of team that they played for. I'm looking at Francisco Moura. He looked like he started a very reasonable amount of games for Porto this season. I'd almost consider him sort of a first choice fullback for them. And he came in at 4.1 million. There are other cheap defenders in the game you could pick for. In fact, I'm going to make a separate video talking through the best cheap players in the game because I want to do some real in-depth research into it. But this guy at the moment is outstanding as kind of the cheap defensive asset in the game. And I spoke before about the groups. I think Porto have a pretty good group and there should be some clean sheets there. I look at the fixtures he's got. Palmeiras and Inter Miami at 4.1 million. I think that's a couple of good fixtures for him. And then I've gone for Ryerson of Dortmund. I think he's the outstanding Dortmund defender in the game. And the first couple of fixtures for Dortmund, well, in general, their group is great, isn't it? They got Fluminense and then Sundowns in match day 2. Say I'm deliberately avoiding saying some words there that I can't pronounce, but you know what I mean. But yeah, I think there's good odds of a clean sheet there for Dortmund, and hopefully Ryerson can get some attacking returns as well. That's my defence. I think, to be honest, the structure of this defence will largely be what I go in with on the deadline. It's just a case of who do I pick in this cheap defender spot. I've gone for Francisco Moura at the time being, but something might emerge that there's a better asset that comes out. In terms of my midfield then, I've gone for Julian Brandt of Dortmund. I said before, Dortmund are one of the teams I'd want to target. They got good fixtures for the first couple of match days, and Brandt's form towards the end of the season has been really strong. And I think the fact he comes in 1.5 million cheaper than Adeyemi, I think is enough for me to want to pick him. I've gone for Enzo Fernandez, who has been pretty good for Chelsea, playing in somewhat advanced positions for them, getting goals, assists in the Premier League. And I really like the ball recovery bonus points that you can get in this game. And I think Enzo Fernandez will offer you a decent amount of potential attacking returns and also ball recovery points as well. We spoke about Chelsea having a favourable group. I really like him as an option. And I go back to, because the rules of this game run similarly to the Euros. I didn't play the UEFA Champions League fantasy game this season, but I did play Euro 2024 fantasy football. And I remember one player in particular was really good. It was Fabian Ruiz for Spain in that game. And he was good because he offered a balance of good attacking data. He got some attacking returns during the tournament. And I'd say he adopted for Spain in that tournament a similar position to what Enzo Fernandez has been playing for Chelsea. And obviously got the ball recoveries as well. A nice balance of the two potential, points potential areas, I suppose. I think Fernandez sort of ticks both those boxes, so I'm quite happy to own him. I've gone for one cheap midfielder as well. There is a River Plate player as well who I quite like, whose name I can't pronounce. But I think based on the stats that I've looked at, Rodrigo Moura of Porto, I think looks like, at the moment anyway, the strongest cheap midfielder that I could find. Again, we're picking my cheap players. I've gone for a balance of quality of teams that they play for and the number of appearances that they've made. Because in my mind, a player from a good team that has like an 80% chance of playing, I think, in this game, especially considering I've got so many other good options in my team, is probably better than a dirt cheap midfielder from a team that's probably not going to do much, but he'll play every minute, if that makes sense. That's the logic I've gone for with this team selection anyway. Rodrigo Moura is a bit of a wonder kid. I think he's 18 years old. Good numbers this season for Porto, and he played some decent minutes, certainly in the run-in this season. I really like him as an option. Çalhanoğlu, penalty taker, free kick taker, sort of talisman, I'd say, in terms of those two things, in terms of set piece taking anyway for Inter. I think for me, I just love picking penalty and free kick takers in fantasy football games because regardless of how the team performs, you always have a chance of a goal or an assist from these players because they take the corners, they take the free kicks, and they take the penalties. Again, similar to Dumfries and DeMarco, I think we have to see how this Champions League final plays out to see. Could get injured, there could be a bit of a hangover from it. We could get an announcement that Inter are going to rest a load of players. You just don't know. But for the time being, he's made the team. I've gone for Cole Palmer on a similar logic. I love picking penalty takers in fantasy football. I know he's not had the best run at the end of this season in the Premier League, but I do think either Club America or Los Angeles plus Flamengo in his first two fixtures, they're probably on par or level with some of the bottom teams in the Premier League, or maybe even slightly lower standard. So I do think he could do quite well in those games. Forgive me if I am sort of, I don't know, I'm worried about putting a poor reputation on these non-Premier League or non-European teams. I do think they're probably going to be better than I'm giving them credit for, but at the same time, I just don't think they're quite on the level of some of these top European teams. So I'm seeing the likes of Flamengo as a good fixture. I might be mistaken in that as the game plays out, but I'm just using my standard sort of fantasy football logic to pick players. Up front, not going to go into too much detail about these three because I think the front three sort of picks itself. The only player I'm a little bit unsure about, I'll be totally honest, I'll just get rid of the goalkeepers, is Mbappe. I think Kane against Auckland, like we said at the start of the video, while going through the fixtures in groups, etc. Auckland City are bookies' favourites to be the worst team in the tournament, and Harry Kane has them in match day 1. He's, I think, pretty much one of the top scoring players in Europe. Probably the best centre-forward in world football this season, and he's playing the worst team in the tournament. So I think for me, that's sort of nailed-on captaincy for match day 1, and I think just a shoe-in for the team. I think Guirassy has he's put up some wonderful numbers for Dortmund this season. And we spoke about Dortmund having a really favourable group. Fluminense and Sundowns in his first couple of fixtures. So yeah, I think he sort of makes his way into my team. And then Mbappe, I think you have to pick him right with the 2 fixtures that Madrid have got. The fact he's probably going to be their penalty taker and is kind of the star man, I guess, of the team. I'm just not massively convinced by him in a Madrid shirt recently. He's had a decent season, but I don't think he's performed at like Ballon d'Or levels this season. You do look at the other forwards in the game. It's just whether you pick him or Haaland, I suppose. Haaland is another good alternative. Now, his first couple of fixtures being Casablanca and El Ain. So that could be pretty good as well. Just deciding really between Haaland and Mbappe. I think that's where I'll go. It'll either be Haaland or Mbappe. You know, the desire to pick Messi from an emotional perspective is there, but I just don't think his team are good enough, and I just don't think they'll do all that well against Porto. I think Messi is still, well, he's Lionel Messi, isn't he? But at 10.5 million, I just think that's too expensive for the team that he's playing in. I'm not sure how well Inter Miami will actually do in the tournament. So yeah, anyway, that takes you through my first draft. Yeah, like I said, maybe some more information needs to come out. Well, definitely some more information needs to come out for me to confirm it. But as things stand, that's how I'm looking. Okay, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. My first draft, I did put a trial draft together about how to play video, but I've had some time now the Premier League is finished to do a little bit more research into the players to pick. And yeah, this is my first actual draft and how my team is saved at the moment. Like I said, I'll do some more research into all of the cheap players in the game, and I'll probably make a video about who I think the best sort of really cheap players in the game are. Because I think the secret to this game is picking the known, trusted assets. Quite a lot of players in my team, like the Inter wingbacks, Kane, Mbappe, Guirassy, you know, players like that are pretty much shoe-ins. And then it's a case of picking the best cheap players in order to fit them all in. So I have a video coming out on that. Like I said, if you want to watch more Club World Cup content on this channel, please subscribe. It should pop up just around here on your screen at some point, and like the video if you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comments if you've already got some cheap players or players you think should absolutely be in this team that I haven't picked. I'd be really interested to hear that or read that in the comment section. Just be polite about it. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you in my next Club World Cup video.